moving away for university. Me and my 3 best friends had decided that we would move in together as we were all studying the same degree, and living with each other was just far more preferable than living with strangers. We had moved into our house about 1 month before the term began to give us time to settle into our new home and our new town. I believe we were about a week into living there at this point. One of us had gone back home briefly this week, so the only ones in the house were me and my 2 other friends, who we'll call Emmett and then Misty. Before I begin, I must say that all 4 of us had multiple odd experiences in that house, but it seems that Emmett and I got the majority of it. I was bored and I decided to hang out with Emmett in his bedroom. His room was downstairs, and from where I'd opened the door and from where we were sitting, you could see the staircase and into the hallway, which led into the kitchen through the crack in the door. We had been chatting and laughing for a couple of minutes when we eventually heard and saw Misty coming down the stairs. She slowly walked past, but we could see her stop right outside of Emmett's bedroom door with her back facing us. We went quiet and were trying not to laugh, thinking that she was just trying to listen in on our conversation. We started to snicker a little bit louder to indicate to her that we knew that she was there. But when she still had her back turned to us and was unresponsive, we started to get a little bit confused. We assumed that she hadn't heard us laughing, so we said, "We know you're there, Misty." Misty then slowly walked into the direction of the kitchen. We shrugged this off and assumed that she was probably a bit embarrassed that we had caught her listening. We resumed our conversation for a few more minutes, but our words died off quickly as we saw and we heard Misty trotting down the stairs. She knocked on the door and poked her head around, and she cheerily asked us what we were doing. We looked at her in confused silence. After a couple of seconds, we asked her, "Didn't you just go into the kitchen a minute ago?" And to our horror, she replied with, "Huh? No, I have only just come down the stairs." That's creepy. Honestly, the first thing that comes to mind for me over about why that is so creepy is because it's like a college dorm house, right? Freaks me out that there is just a random stranger in there, like breaking in. But it looked like Misty, so I don't like that. Okay. Story number 2. Greetings. My story takes place back in the winter of 2000, and I had just graduated with my best friend Joel. Joel and I grew up together almost our entire lives, seeing as we had spent together almost every summer, autumn, winter, spring, and repeat. During the winter, especially, since we'd often use the winter break to go hunting when he was in town. On winter break, Joel and I would fly out to West Virginia to his grandfather's property, which was located dead smack in the middle of a thick patch of woods. Rest in peace, Papa Charlie. You will be missed. Joel and I had to be hunting at his grandfather's place since 1994, so we had grown to be on the more familiar side with the whole operation of basic survival skills and being acquainted with the outdoors and with wildlife. With the short time that we've been getting ourselves into the hunting scene, we were still pretty much amateurs compared to other, more seasoned outdoor veterans. But even so, we could still get a firm grasp on what we were doing. But on this occasion, however, we would forever question what is really beyond our normal understanding of the outdoors. It was a cold and snowy afternoon in December of 2000. We had just gotten on our Christmas break of our senior year. We had flown out to West Virginia to begin our annual hunting expedition. We pretty much did the exact same thing on this voyage to the woods as we had done in previous years. We'd got an hour hunting rifles and side firearms, just in case we might run into trouble. We'll always have a couple field rations, a tent with sleeping bags, 2 flashlights, and 2 backup flashlights, a first aid kit, and some canteens of water, among other things. We would usually go about 1 kilometer or 2 from Granddad's property, but being our senior year, we thought we might test the waters a little bit and adventure just a few more kilometers deeper. I remember venturing out and seeing the gorgeous afternoon sky that shone above us with these beautiful pinkish blue painted clouds that were being lit up by the gorgeous orange yellow sun that had begun to fall to escort us into the evening. Joel and I had set up camp and began preparations for a campfire. We would usually do this in order to set up a position to come back to. After we finish with a set task, we would set our belongings down and assess our inventory. We would sit down the unnecessaries and bring along with us the more important things that we needed for the hunt. We'll early morning, we got up to begin preparations for our first hunt of the winter. It was almost yesterday, I can tell you, that the early morning sky had greeted us with a mesmerizing pinkish blue hue. It was one of the most beautiful sights that greeted us all winter. It was cold, and the air clusters with a smooth, gentle breeze. We put on our coats, our boots, and our caps, and thus began our expedition into the great unknown. We followed the trail in which we had stuck the branch into the ground to once again survey the area and choose which direction to move on from, which we had crafted the marker. It didn't take long for us to spot a deer from our trail marker. It wasn't common for us to find a wildlife specimen so quick, but it wasn't unheard of either. Upon closer inspection, we noticed that the deer looked as if it were sleeping or resting. But that was not the case. We had gotten closer to it to get a more thorough assessment, and we found that its neck had been fractured, and its left rear leg looked as if it were twisted and pulled right off and separated from the body. Blood and remnants of the animal's meat were resting on the earth around the deer. The smell of the carcass was also prominent. Mind you that this was about 100 to maybe 250 meters from our campsite. It was really strange for Joel and I to find such a sight during the winter. Joel asked, "What do you think could have taken the deer down?" "I don't know," I said. He suggested that maybe it was a bear, but then it was winter, so that didn't really make any sense. In my head at the time, I was thinking that maybe something had ambushed the animal, put it out of its misery in order to come back to it later. Joel had to go to the area to maybe find the predator if it were still lurking around the area. He looked and looked and looked, to no avail. After that brief encounter with the carcass, we further surveyed the expedition in hopes of finding game that were still alive and ready for us to take, ready for us to hunt. About an hour passed since we found the deer, and we found a couple more deer that numbered around the count of 3. The deer were grazing on a couple patches of exposed grass and a few patches of brush and tree vegetation. So we waited until the body of the deer was a little more exposed for us to take the shot. Joel volunteered to take the first prize of the season. As he prepared to take the first shot, I scouted the surrounding region for any other game, anything else that might seem like a threat to us while we were hunting. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary as I concluded to Joel. Joel grunted back in acknowledgement and he pulled the trigger. rest of the herd retreat into deeper patches of wood. I hoisted the body upon my shoulders, and Joel assisted me in doing so. After equipping the deer on our shoulders, we began our voyage back to our camp. A few moments went by, and a heavy and unnerving feeling began to settle in. I just couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. I remember we strolled about 30 meters into our voyage, and Joel, out of sheer boredom, decided to take a fallen tree branch and whack it against a tall tree. I kid you not even 10 seconds went by, and a knock replied to Joel's knock. Joel turned to look at me, and he asked if I had heard that. I had. The knock that had replied to Joel's felt so random, as if it were a coincidence, but yet again, it sounded loud and clear, and the noise echoed throughout the woods. Joel decided to make another knock, but this time, nothing replied back. I started to feel as if I was being watched again, and this time, I let Joel know what I was feeling, and he said that he was feeling the same way. We were about halfway to our established campsite when we heard yet another knock. And from that position, from that knock we had just heard, we heard yet another knock that did not sound very far away from the original source. WTF, Joel shouted as he turned to me. At this time, it was about 12 in the afternoon. Whatever was making these knocks seemed too quiet for the time being. We had reached our camp and had begun preparing the deer. When we finished, we would keep the meat and throw out the remnants. This time, however, after hearing strange noises from the woods, I thought I would just throw it out a little bit further from our campsite in hopes of not being found. For whatever reason, I don't know. I don't hunt, but people in my family do, so I'm assuming that's what you're supposed to do anyway, because that's a big bear attractant. It was about 6, 7, maybe 8 in the evening. I can't remember, but it was getting dark. That is all I know. I let Joel know what I was doing, and so off I went to throw the remnants out as far as I could get them away from our campsite. In doing so, just in case anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, I don't want to be specific in case it upsets anyone, but it's what you take out of the animal after you hunt. So it's like the guts and stuff. It's like what you do when you catch a fish, you know? You want to get that out of your campsite, I'm assuming. In doing so, I had just finished casting it away when I felt yet another heavy set of eyes gazing on me. I threw the carcass down and I looked up, hoping that I could find whatever I felt for something though. Of course, this was the time when stupid, forgetful, idiotic me realized that I had left my side firearm at the camp. After a few moments of being really still, I heard a hard and loud, pronounced thud about 20 feet to my left. I jumped and I looked, and it was just a rock, and it was a rock. My heart was starting to race as I started to ponder on the reason that a rock would be hitting the surface near where I was standing. It was as if it had been thrown at me. I looked at the rock, and then another one landed 10 feet in front of me, not even 10 seconds apart from the first one. Now, this is the moment where my heart started to really kick into high gear, because I noticed that the size of the rock that had just been thrown in front of me, this rock was about the size of a dinner plate. Now, you gotta imagine the strength of who or whatever possesses in order to throw such a large rock, in order to make the sound it made when it dropped down on the ground. The sound was loud, hard, and very deep and pronounced. I shouted, "Hey, who's there?" Because obviously somebody threw the rock, and I got nothing in return. I grabbed a smaller rock and I throw it in the direction of where the big rock had come from, and again, nothing. I still felt the heavy eyes gazing upon me, and that was when I took off and I started to run back to camp. I come rushing out of breath, and Joel is trying to calm me down as I'm trying to explain to him everything that happened in one breath. He tells me to slow down and to explain what is going on. I tell him that there is something out there that's throwing rocks, and the rocks are the size of dinner plates. He called my bluff and said that I'm crazy and that I needed to calm down. He goes on to tell me that I need to stop making things up. I tell him that I'm not, and that he can go to the spot that I was at and see for himself. This time, I grab my firearm and I tell him to equip himself as well, and he did so with a scoff. We go and we stand at the position where I found myself before. Now, mind you, this time it's pitch black, and there is no light other than the moon. He pulled out his flashlight and he surveyed the surrounding area. We found nothing for a short time. I told him to watch as I began to prepare to throw a rock. I picked a random direction and I chucked the rock in said direction. A few moments later, whatever was in those woods replied with direction of where the rock had come from. Whoever it was, were deep in the woods, and we saw a pair of eyes. These eyes were a goldish, reddish color that reflected the light that Joel had used. Joel and I locked our gazes on these eyes for only about 3 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. After that, the eyes vanished into the woods. We decided to tuck tail and run back. We decided that that was enough exploring for the night, and we went to bed. On our way back, I kept telling Joel, "See, I told you." For some reason, though, Joel had this look in his eyes that said that he was frightened, but he wasn't fully convinced at what he saw being real. When we reached our tent, we tucked ourselves in, and slept. It was about 2:30 in the morning when something woke me up. I lifted my head, and all of a sudden I started to get a whiff of the most foul, most unholy, most nose-killing stench ever known to mankind. It smelled like stagnant sewer water that had feces and rotten eggs poured into it. After that, I heard deep, heavy footsteps a few dozen meters away. I remember hearing Joel snoring in the background, sounding like a stereotypical dad snore. Then, out of nowhere, I heard something making noises, as if it were trying to copy Joel's snore. I turned and I faced the direction in which the noise was coming from. With each cycle of Joel's snore, the creature replied with a perfect and eerily identical response, as if it were communicating. I shook Joel up to tell him what was happening. As I did this, the mimicking creature suddenly stopped. As it did, I heard the sound of retreating footsteps. And I promise, I am not joking when I say this, I only heard 3 deep footsteps before they vanished into the woods. Only 3, and the creature was gone. I still remember the smell, and I still remember the sounds that it made that night. After, Joel had gotten pissed with me that I had woken him up. He went back to bed, and so did I. It was the last week of the winter break, and we decided to go hunting just one more time. It was noon when we commenced this operation, and we did our usual routine. We went back to the site where we had the deer, and it was gone. Sorry, original deer that had obviously been taken down by a predator, and it was gone. Thinking nothing much of it, as it could have been any potential predator who took it. So we continued deeper into the woods, and sure enough, we find a rabbit. I decided that I would be the one to hunt it. Joel agreed and he let me have it. It's a super easy and super quick hunt. We collected the rabbit and we made our way back to camp. But upon arrival, we noticed that our deer that we had hunted had gone missing. The annoying thing was that we had hung the carcass about 8 feet in the air via a tree branch that was suspended. Upon closer inspection, we noticed that our rope looked as if it were snapped, like something had grabbed the deer carcass, yanked on it, and pulled it out with the branch. I looked down and I saw large and deep human-looking footprints on the ground beneath me. I pointed Joel's attention to the prints, and I compared my boot size, which was 17 in men's sizes at the time, and my foot was dwarfed to these footprints in comparison. Now, we were starting to get really unsettled at this point, really quick, because obviously something very heavy, very large, had just stolen our prized game and took off with it. At first, I wanted to believe that it was just Joel fooling around because of the whole rock incident from the night before, but that was negated real quick when I got a familiar feeling that I was being watched along with Joel. This time, Joel had actually pulled out his hunting rifle and he surveyed the surrounding area, because this time he actually told me that he was really feeling like he was being watched, and I followed suit. Yeah, that's not a joke. There could be a grizzly bear watching them, or something else. Joel fired off a warning shot in the air, and we didn't see or hear anything. Whatever had taken our deer was gone. We decided to end our Christmas break the day after. We started packing up the more useless items when it came to hunting, but we kept the general that territory. The territory that we were sleeping in and that we needed to get out. Joel, out of sheer annoyance, let off a shot. That only seemed to piss off the creature more than what it originally sounded like. Because after Joel let off a shot, another roar was let out, and this time it sounded more intense and a lot more angry. Soon after that, another roar was let out, and another, and all directions. It sounded like it was surrounding us. After this roaring, rocks began to be launched in our direction, and it was clear that it was getting closer. We put on our boots, our coats, and our caps, and we grabbed everything that made us feel safe, like our firearms. We got out of the tent and we shined our flashlights in all directions. What I saw that night will forever be ingrained in my memory for the rest of my life. With my flashlight, I saw a tall, hairy, bulky creature. This creature was by no means a human, nor was it a bear. It stood on two legs, and it towered over every normal-looking tree and brush. This creature looked as if it reached 8.5, maybe 9 feet tall. The creature was a dark, blackish brown color, and the fur, or the hair, or whatever you want to call it, was 3 inches long, hanging off of his arm. Seeing this creature brought actual tears to my eyes out of sheer fright. This creature was about 100 yards in front of me when I yelled. Joel quickly turned his head in the direction that I was looking and saw the creature as he let out a yell as well. He fired his rifle in the direction of this creature. The bullet looked as if it pierced this humanoid thing, and this hulking thing absolutely tanked it. After it had been struck, this thing let out the most terrifying, most deafening, and the angriest roar that I have ever heard. After it did that, it vanished into the woods. We decided that it was no longer safe to remain in the woods for one more night, and we booked it back to Granddad's house. As our legs carried us as fast as they could, we heard loud and deep footsteps pursuing us. I looked back and I saw this creature again, this time sprinting and charging at us. With each step, the creature let out a grunt and a deep inhale. and its arms and hands were stretched out, coming towards us. I am not in any way bull-crapping you when I say this, but with each step, it easily cleared 5 to 6 feet. As we acknowledged the imminent danger behind us, we heard other roars and other grunts coming from our left and from our right. A group of these humanoid creatures were onto us, and they were pursuing us. I didn't want to think about what would happen if they caught up, so we just kept running as fast as we could. We ran for maybe 2 to 4 miles before we finally saw Granddad's house lights in the patio. We had left almost everything in the campsite besides our firearms and what was left in our backpacks. We finally reached the patio, and we look back as the creatures let out their roars and their yelps. I remember having my clothes being ripped as I rushed through the brush. Joel was out of breath. Joel was as out of breath as I was. And that was the day that we finally decided to quit going out into the woods. We told Granddad when it happened, and his eyes grew wide and his breathing slowed down. He didn't tell us anything in response, and we asked him if he was alright. He said that he was, but he asked us if we were pulling his leg or something. We said no, naturally, as he could clearly see our ripped clothing, our frightened expressions. You could see it all. It was plastered on our faces. He said, okay, and then he prepared us a cup of tea and sat us down, and he began to tell us a story that was passed down from his great-grandfather, which was passed down to his grandfather, then to his father, and finally him. That story is for another day, for it's a long one, and I don't want this to take too much time. But, long story short, what we had just seen was Bigfoot. I hope you enjoyed this story, and I hope that it gets featured. Yeah. Regards, James. Oh my god. I don't know, dude. Do you guys believe in Bigfoot or Sasquatch? Growing up in the Pacific Northwest, I have obviously heard many tales about Sasquatch and Bigfoot. I was always really scared of that. The possibility of running into one in the woods one day, and it honestly still freaks me out. Especially with all these new theories that they could be aliens. I don't know if you guys have heard that. But I am honestly wondering if, like, maybe, just maybe, could it have been a bear or a moose or something? But you said you were like 100% certain that it was a humanoid, right? So I don't know. So creepy. Thank you for sending your story. Okay, last story for today. house anymore, and my 3 brothers, and then I. We are 2 sets of twins, which is kind of strange, right? Even today, we jokingly say that the house we lived in was haunted. It was fairly old and lots of strange things happened there. Lots of strange things happened there to me and my brothers. I think I was about 5 or so when one night I suddenly woke up feeling watched. Startled, I soon noticed that there was this figure who was standing right next to my twin. He was identical to him, but his face was menacingly smiling and staring at me. Terrified, I closed my eyes and I straight up started praying. Another night, I woke up feeling somebody tapping on my back with their finger, sort of trying to wake me up. Thinking that it was just my twin, I opened my eyes, only to realize that my brother was in front of me, peacefully sleeping, while my back was facing the wardrobe. Maybe these occurrences were just some sort of sleep paralysis, but I don't know. The scary thing is that I wasn't the only one experiencing creepy encounters. During this period, indeed, every night my twin was seeing this tall man standing on the door of our bedroom, staring at him. This went on for a really long time, until my brother found the courage to tell him. He was shaking, but he said it firmly. He told this man to go away. He only ever saw him again later on in life when he was about 18. Even though he had moved his bed so that he wouldn't face the door, one night he saw the man's face peeking out from the door, watching him. We really don't know who this figure was. Was it a ghost? Was it just a manifestation of my twin's anguish? We probably won't ever know. Maybe the two things don't exclude each other, and bad vibes just attract entities like this. I really don't know. One time when I was 18, I came back to my house and I noticed that from outside, every single light inside my house was turned on. I distinctly remember thinking, what the hell? I came into the house ready to tell my brothers to turn the lights off when I noticed that every light, in fact, was turned off. At first, I said something like, "Hello, this is not fun," convinced that my brothers were trying to scare me. But I soon realized that I was completely alone in the house. I checked if the power was out, but it was completely fine. And this really freaked me out. like stories of like shadow type people looking at you from the hallway, looking into your bedroom, because I have nightmares like that sometimes, and I will see, it pretty much looks like Slender Man with a top hat on, but it's just a complete black shadow, and the dude is just creeping in our hallway, staring into our bedroom at me, and it is the freakiest thing that's ever happened to me. I think it's happened to me 3 times now. I don't like it. If it's some sort of entity, I hope Nova rips its throat out. Okay. Thank you guys so much for sending your amazing